in closer.
Okay, how do I get this scrolling up? Oh, like that?
He's handling it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I move for a call to approve the agenda.
So the chair is asking for a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
So who made the motion?
I did.
You did, okay.
Remember.
All right, and second was by who? State your name when you say that, so we know who that was made the
Jim
second.
Jackson.
Who is the second?
Jim Jackson.
Okay, all right, thank you. So we have a motion and a second, Madam Chair. So I'll call the roll again on this motion. Commissioner Klett. Although I should strike the, yeah, okay, Commissioner Klett.
Yes.
Commissioner Nicholas is excused. Vice Chair Steinberger.
Yes.
Chair Baez.
Yes.
Commissioner Coe is not present. Commissioner Ham. Yes. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
So the motion passes, Madam Chair, 5 with 2 excused.
Thank you. I'd like to make a comment before we go to the approval of the minutes. On their last meeting, we have in there that we were going to, in future, for this next session, that we were going to be talking about the dog park. So that's not on our agenda. I still move to approve the meeting or the minutes, but I'd like to make sure it gets on our next agenda.
That would be for number 12, if you want to mention it on number 12.
Under future, okay.
So yes, there's a call for future agenda items, so we'll pick it up there.
Right, I just want to make sure because it was supposed to be on for this one.
Okay.
Okay. I move a motion to approve the minutes from the meeting of March 9th, 2020.
Is there a second to that?
Gretchen, I second the motion.
Okay. Let's see. I got to figure out here. Commissioner. I should go through here, Nicholas and go. Okay, Commissioner Baez.
Yes.
Commissioner Ham. Yes. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Klett.
Yes.
Motion passes, Madam Chair, 5 to nothing with 2 excused.
Thank you. Move on next to, our next agenda is the announcement of artwork.
So we had 2 submittals for artwork, and again, they're in the packet in the back. We have them on the screen, and I think it was Chair Bice that had the 2 pieces of art that were more in the aviation realm that were sent. These are the color pictures for the 2 folks that were in the audience, and I forget where those were, in Peoria or?
I think they were in Peoria.
Peoria.
They were in Goodyear,
Goodyear.
Arizona.
Okay.
Yep. And so I just wanted to show these examples of some pretty large-scale public art at a commercial location in Goodyear that I saw while driving there recently. One of them is integrated into the architecture of the building. I believe that's Exhibit B, where it's kind of a nice portrait of a propeller, and the other one is a large portrait of a stealth bomber. They're relevant to the culture of Goodyear. Goodyear, I learned this kind of from the art, which is exactly, I feel like, kind of the purpose is, right? It sparks that interest. That Goodyear is named after the Goodyear Company, and they have a long history of aviation in their town. And so when this modernization effort happened at their airport, the entity provided these large pieces of public art. It wasn't clear to me who whether they were mandated or whether it was voluntary on the effort of the owner of the facility. But they're very striking and very visible as you drive down. I believe it's Ledbetter is the name of the road. So I do have the contact. I did find where it said who the artist was of these murals online. And through that exploration also found that Goodyear has some pretty great resources in terms of their public art, which I think would be, a good exercise for us to do kind of a survey of kind of how they've inventoried their art, getting into other aspects of the agenda, which we'll talk about later, as well as, how they've generated integrating art into their community. So all around, I think it was just a great example of both the City of Goodyear's successful employment of a public arts program and the corporate entities' provision of two pieces of art that are both striking, engaging, and really culturally connected to their history.
Okay.
So I'm happy to share those links, afterwards, or perhaps in as a future reference.
Excellent. Thank you. I like that.
The next 3 photos are attached, and I think those are in Tempe.
Yes, they are in Tempe, Arizona. They are off of, so this is a sound barrier between Broadway Road and a neighborhood off of Broadway between Rural and Mill Road.
Commissioner Ham, I hate to interrupt. I just want to make sure that your microphone is on if you have the green light in front of you.
The green light on the mic?
On the microphone.
Now it's on.
Okay.
Much better.
Sorry about that, Commissioner Ham. Go ahead.
So I caught these when I was on my way home from an event that I was setting up in Tempe. And when I was caught stuck in traffic, that's when I took these pictures. And I just found this sound barrier between the road and the neighborhood aesthetically pleasing, and it made being stuck in traffic not as annoying, because you had something to look at that wasn't just regular concrete. And I just...
This is Gretchen. Can I speak?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm really glad you took the photo of these because I didn't get a chance to, and I agree with you. And it's kind of neatly interactive as well, because as you drive by or as the lighting changes, it changes as well. So thanks for sharing.
You're very welcome.
Do you have another one?
I think that's all we had.
Okay.
We had 3 photos of that, different. Okay, we don't have any public hearings.
Just one last comment on those 3 pictures. Those are 3 different parts of the sound barrier as well, I should point out.
Okay.
Okay, so it's broken into it's segmented along the wall, kind of in different sections.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a great example of taking a otherwise, mundane wall and finding an opportunity in it.
Our next on the agenda is old business.
So
Good
Sydney's
evening.
going to take this over,
Yeah.
the presentation and discussion on the work plan. The work plan is attached to the packet, and I think it's the tab, there's a tab up there for a couple of you in the audience that the print's pretty tiny, but at least when it got mailed out, so.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sidney Arias, Senior Planner on staff. I'll be the staff liaison going forward. I wanted to take some time tonight and go over the work plan. Unfortunately, I wasn't present while Heather and the commission were working on this plan, so we're trying to kind of play catch up, and I know it's been a few months, so it's probably good to re-review it. At large, the work plan is made up of really 5 objectives and then action plans for each of those objectives. The first objective is to prepare for public art. Let me scroll that up. There you go. The second objective is assess and engage stakeholders to identify opportunities for public art. The third objective is design long-term goals and objectives. Objective number 4, launch action plans for public art program. And objective number 5 is manage and monitor the performance and progress of public art in Apache Junction. Before Heather left, she gave us kind of an update of where you guys were at. Of course, you guys were in the beginning phases of the work plan. I think she left off kind of trying to create an action plan for conducting inventory within the city, art inventory. And we are seeking kind of an input from the commission on whether that has started, how that was divided, or if there was any discussion at those past meetings.
From my understanding, we had requested a map so we could break down into sections, and we would take a section and go around and see.
Okay. Vice Chair, I found a map in Heather's files, and it looks like she broke up the city in 7 sections. I have that in front of me. I could email that to the commission, and then kind of get input from you guys. And then she also created an inventory action plan that would be quite helpful while inventorying this art.
Perfect.
So we will email that out. A part of this inventory is also creating a database of this art and displaying that online. In one of her action items, I think it's action item perhaps 4, it talks about creating an interactive map online, and that could be our inventory tool as well as our marketing tool.
Okay.
So staff, Larry and I have talked to GIS staff, and they're currently creating kind of the back end of that product. So when you guys are taking inventory of the art found here in the city, then you would just send us that information, and then we would upload that information into our GIS and then publicly display that on our website.
Okay, we probably should have some other clarification of definition of art specifically.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
whether it's standing art, murals, dog park. I understand we have a community garden over here. So can that be included as part of interactive art?
Vice Chair,
So-
yeah, absolutely. So there's Heather also created prior to leaving is kind of a pamphlet per se of what is art and what is not art, and I'll also email that, and that could be used as a tool while you guys are inventorying the art.
Thank you.
I think the idea is when we get this inventory, it's hard for you to GPS it and get some uniformity, but the idea working with our GIS division is we could take a photo, so you could have an interactive map. You could click on a photo, it would take you to the location. It might have a little story if we had information about the artist or how that project came to be.
Great.
So as people are identifying that, it might be helpful, either you're jotting down notes or we give you a form to fill out, and then everybody's kind of using the same form. And then we kind of give that and then we probably have to go out with an intern or somebody and GPS that. But I recently saw an interactive map of places to go running. So basically they'll have a beautiful trail, they'll have a picture, you click on it, and that'll be kind of geo-referenced on a map, like a Google map. But then it'll say a little bit of which park that is and why that's a great place to go running. So that's kind of where maybe this could go.
I like that.
So rather than just a inventory and a list, but there's a photo, and then so people who can't get out and drive around, if you're homebound, they can see the art and they can know and learn about the art. So I think it's the inventory, but also I think this is stuff that's accessible to the public. So a piece of art that's inside a gated community, it's not, we really want it in the way I think the areas are laid out. We're looking for art that is, no trespassing, those kind of things, that we're going to see stuff that the general public can go view.
Excellent. Thank you.
So it's viewable to the public, but it's not quite public art because it could be privately placed, so.
Yes, and Vice Chair and Commissioners on the phone. In talks with GIS, our hope is to have at least a rough draft of what that GIS profile interactive map will look like, or at least an example from a different community that will be very similar.
Excellent. Thank you.
And this is Commissioner Bies. As I mentioned, I found the example that I found for Goodyear pretty helpful, just as a starting point. And I have that link I can share, but I don't know what the best way to do that would be. Would it be best to email that to Larry and Sydney, or I can just read it out here if that's
Probably email would be best,
acceptable?
Commissioner, Chair Bice, that'd be great.
Yes.
Okay, great. One other concern I have is, in my area of AJ, I know there are people who have lots of large sculptural lawn ornaments. And I do want to make sure that if it's visible from the public, that we are respectful of the property owner's desire to have it listed or not listed. Would the city be able to assist us in contacting them or reaching out to them to see if it's appropriate to list on the website, or would we need some sort of acknowledgement in that regard?
Yes, I think so. I mean, if someone has art in their front yard or they think it's art, they are obviously displaying it. They're expecting people to come by, but once it's kind of more formal, if somebody can go to a website and then their address is now on a website. So I think that is a little more, getting concurrence from them, I think, is important.
Mr. Stern?
If it's viewable from the public right away, you don't need their permission, but if you want to have their permission, you certainly can.
Yeah.
But if it's viewable from the public right away, you can take a picture of it and use the address too.
Sure. Yeah, I just wasn't sure if there was my thought process was, if we do put it on the website and someone's interested in driving around, if that increases traffic in front of someone, people stopping in front of their house to look at it, if that would be something they'd be comfortable with or not. Just want to make sure I'm respectful of people's privacy at the same time. I know that's important culturally here in AJ as well. So we'd be happy to hear guidance on the thoughts of the city's perspective there, I guess.
Well, I think once we know the volume of the inventory and how many pieces of art we're really talking about, if it's, if this inventory is 10 or 20 or 200, then it's kind of, not that it changes it all that much, it's just a lot more effort to, again, there will be pieces of art that they might consider themselves art, but it may not be.
We might not, right?
Yeah,
Somebody else might.
and maybe that's up to you folks to decide, is this really something we want to be on the city website? If it's not sensitive or objectionable, so once we get the inventory, we see the pictures, we can spend some time figuring out, are there things there that maybe we don't want to have on a website?
We did have one guy who thought a speed monitoring device that was at about 18, 20 feet on a pole was art. The problem is, every time a car saw it, yes, they got additional traffic because people would try to see how fast they could go past his house. So he said it was art, but no, code compliance had to deal with that. But that attracted the traffic, if you want to talk about traffic. It was basically what it looked like a police tracking device for traffic, and it would record your speed electronically. So if you got up to 60 miles an hour in a residential 25 mile an hour street, you get the bonus.
I could see how that would not necessarily be encouraged.
Vice Chair and Commissioners on the phone. Something we talked about is really tonight's purpose of talking about the work plan was really to have a general reintroduction of the work plan since it's been a few months. We'd like to kind of dive deeper into the work plan in our next meeting, perhaps divide the work plan in segments, perhaps just talk about objective number 1 and number 2, and the tasks and activities associated to each of those, and how we move forward. So with your permission, I'd suggest that we would start with objective number 1 and number 2 just to start, and then explore those at our next meeting.
So do we move to put that on next agenda, or I move?
You don't have to move, the staff will put it on there.
Okay.
We can put it on. And we'll, again, if we want to talk about it, item 12. The other thing Sydney and I talked about, for example, was we talk about the action plan for conducting inventory is in the first objection. Then we're going to conduct the inventory. And then at the bottom, under objective number 4, it talks about mapping of public art. Well, those really are sequential.
Mhm.
And
Great.
we were thinking of moving things around a little bit or suggesting to move things around a little bit. And that's really kind of like related tasks. So that's, we were also, if it's okay with you, kind of look at these. If there are things that are sequential, then we would kind of keep them under, you know,
Absolutely.
yeah, okay.
Commissioner Hand?
Thank you, Commissioner.
And many of these tasks relate, they kind of go back to the ordinance or different ordinances. So again, you have 3 ordinances, one for fees, one that creates the commission that has some duties and things in it. So some of these relate to that. And then you have the zoning piece of it. So just some of these are, I think, and just talking to Heather a little bit, are just things that are in the code, like creating, you know, a donation policy, or, you know, at some point we're going to need a draft request for proposal. So those tasks, I guess we can, I just, where they came from, I think, is Heather was kind of going through the ordinances, kind of putting them in a work plan, and perhaps through discussion with you folks as well. But I think there is some efficiency in delving deeper into each one of these, rather than trying to spend, you know, one night trying to go through 5 objectives, that we try to, you know, spend a lot more time going through objectives 1 and 2 and
I agree.
cetera.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts or discussion on that from anybody?
This is Jim Jackson. I have a question. There are apps available on your phone that will automatically GPS and put an address on the image and things like that. Is that something that, have you thought about as a guideline for when we do take pictures, to make it easier for you to do the mapping, easier for us to do the recording? Do you have guidelines already to use the system, or is this still something in thought mode?
It's in the thought mode. I think that helps if you have an app on your phone that could do it, but it's not, how sensitive that GPS is might get you to the general location. We might still, as a city, go back with our Trimble, and so I'll work with Sydney, we'll come up with a form that you could fill out. Again, you might take, you know, a dozen or 2 of these with you. You might put in the cross streets, you know, you can put in the address. You're not going to know the tax parcel number, things like that. You can put in, you know, you can look at your phone, it might give you a GPS, but we probably will go back and use our more expensive that has 7 satellites that can get you pretty close to that. But I think if it's a form you fill out, then there's some consistency in how each commissioner is doing it, so we don't have to go redo the inventory. So a Commissioner A might take these observations, and Commissioner B, some but not all of the same observations. So
Yep.
we can work with Ryan, Chair Ryan Bice, to kind of go through what that form you might fill out or take with you, so that we get some sort of consistency in how the information is collected.
I like forms.
You like forms?
Yes, I would rather have forms than just taking random notes, because
I
Yeah.
agree.
it'll be a lot more uniform in how we address things in the long run.
Okay, so we'll do that.
Commission, my goal is
That'll
to
be
have
emailed.
that.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Commissioners, my goal is to have that form, at least have a rough draft for it for your next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I kind of put this agenda item on there, presentation discussion on a Public Art Commission logo, and then the design of the logo, how you might want that to proceed. This just kind of started with the city manager, who was out of town visiting someplace, and the local, I don't know if it was a community group, an arts group, they had a banner up and their logo was on it. So this group doesn't have a logo. But maybe there's events that, maybe it'll be on the website, you would want to have a logo, maybe there's a banner we create. maybe at a ribbon cutting, you're gonna want something there.
Okay.
So, Matt McNulty is here. He is the city's, I don't know exactly what his title is off the top of my head here, but he does a lot of website stuff. He created the city logo that has the AJ logo that with the pick and we don't have it. It's on his shirt right there. It's called the Legends logo. So there's different thoughts on how you want to proceed. This is a group where there may be artists on here that might want to go do that. You might want to have a community-wide effort on creating a logo. We could have Matt go try to create a logo and bring some ideas back. So tonight is just kind of a general discussion as, do you want a logo, and what's the process you think you might want to do to kind of start working on a logo?
Matthew McNulty, PIO/Marketing Communication Specialist, Vice Chair, staff. We got this kind of late in the day from Brian, who asked us to take a look at bringing this to you. My experience with this is, of course, designing this, the Water District logo, as well as the 25th anniversary. Over the years, I've had the opportunity to do a lot of work creatively, so I would really love to have you, I guess, give the order at some point. Maybe it's added to your action plan there to create some sort of identification using myself. I think that the current logo would lend itself very well to some looks. I would work for you. It would be free, as opposed to a contest that you may have to get a hold of rights and things like that. For me to do it would be very simple, and it would be awesome. So I think I'm really here just to kind of hear your thoughts about that, and then at some point you would give us direction to go ahead and create some artwork with some ideas to present to you at some point in the future.
I like that. Any input from the other commissioners? From our
Hi,
artists?
this is Gretchen.
I was wondering if you'd speak up.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think my first thing was like, ooh, I'd like to try my hand at a logo. But on the other real point of it is that having him do it would make consistency with all of the other logos, and that might be really nice visually.
I actually concur.
I do as well. Chair Bias?
I agree. I would like the opportunity to kind of review and comment. I think that would be, I think that'd be helpful and beneficial to make sure it also aligns kind of as in the inaugural Arts Commission. Make sure that it kind of fits the character of what we perceive to be our vision and spirit of the committee.
Commissioner Jackson, do you have any input?
I think Matt, the media guy, would be the right choice.
Okay.
I agree with Gretchen. I think it's a good idea to have a recognizable consistency with in general logos that are used by the city.
With our community.
I don't think we want to stray and create something brand new and wonderful and exciting, because then people would have to really investigate it to see, oh look, this is really an Apache Junction thing. Whereas if we pick a recognizable logo that we already have in the city, just modify it a little bit to say that it's Arts Commission or whatever we want it to do, but it will make it consistent and much more recognizable by anyone who sees it.
Okay.
Okay, so I think by consensus, I don't know that we need further direction to staff. Matt can start working on things, and then we will have a formal agenda item where he can bring back ideas, and you guys can go back and forth.
There'll be a development period for that and
Yeah.
things like that.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Okay, the next item is a presentation and discussion on Ordinance 1478 and community engaged design. This is something that Chair Bice asked us to put on the agenda. If you have the ordinance in front of you, which is Ordinance 1478, that essentially created the commission, and it has various sections in there: membership, terms of office, etc. There are duties. So 2.93 kind of talks about the major duties, A through H, and then 2-9-8 talks about the appropriateness of public art, and under 2-9-8 paragraph A, that's where this phrase is put on the agenda, community engaged design. So, but going back, under the duties, your major first duty is promote and encourage diverse citizen participation in public art. So the whole part of this public art, if the city, and I'll use the example of the new roundabout, say the city gets a grant, gets some developer arts fees paid in, and now you have enough money to go put out a request for proposal, hire an artist. That artist is required under kind of our parameters here to have a public engagement process early on. That's really paramount. And then I think that kind of goes with that statement of a community engaged design which plays on the community's heritage. So that's just an example of where I think the idea that there is public involvement, there is community engagement. I don't know in art, do you ever going to get a consensus on what people love or hate or don't like or whatever, or maybe you get 70-80% of the people that like it. So the part of the community engagement can be, it's not really all that defined. I think if the city itself is going to go out and do a request for proposal, hire an artist, there's an expectation in that RFP that there will be some sort of community engagement process. So that's just kind of setting it up. Chair Bice, I don't know how much more you wanted to, or I guess ask staff any questions or give us kind of what your thought process was of talking about this on the agenda tonight.
Sure. So I think this also ties back into our work plan as well, which we talked about addressing kind of these first two objectives, and I don't have the line items listed here, but one of the objectives is create a community involvement and marketing plan for outreach. And so there's a lot of ways to do outreach. Like you mentioned, the city has some formal processes for kind of guaranteeing that the public has the opportunity to be involved. What I was also curious is the other end of the spectrum are, what is our access to more informal community engagement? For example, social media or public notices or things like that may have the ability to kind of start engaging people now before there's necessarily an RFP submitted, but could be a way to generate and brainstorm and like I said, engage folks to start investing in art in the community, and also start potentially pointing us in a direction as to prioritize projects or find new opportunities for projects, et cetera.
And you're referring to also locations that they may like to see art in?
Right. Yeah, I mean, the community is going to, have ideas of where, they think it may be beneficial. And so I'm just not familiar with the city's accessibility, or if there's means available to us already that we could start that engagement in a less formal way.
So there could be, the city has a website, so part of the work plan is to, just like we talked about, this mapping idea of getting stuff on the website. I don't know right now, I don't think you have your own web page, but that's certainly, in the work plan to develop a website, who the commissioners are, when the meetings are, some very basic stuff. The city does have social media through PIO, that Al Bravo or Matt McNulty work in that division, if you will, under the city manager. So the city itself, I believe, has a Facebook page. They have Twitter. They have Instagram. You know, Facebook, if you created your own page, then, you know, you're going to get questions of, well, who's going to monitor it, who's going to all that. But if you were to post stuff on the city's Facebook page, so again, these are all just discussions we can have, but that might be a way to get started, is just to use the city's Facebook page. And then we can sit down with a few of you, if you wish, of, you know, we don't have if you've just poked around yourself on the city website, it's, Matt has done a wonderful job. I don't know when they're talking about if they're going to change the software or not, but it's called Civic Plus. But we, as staff in our office, we can create pages and we can add and edit pages, and so we can. That's one. You know, if it's in the work plan, that is a way to start engaging the community, is through the website and through other social media. So if you want input, if
Great.
you want you know, a survey monkey to go out and ask community attitudes, that's some things that we just did with the general plan. I think we got about 1,300 responses on just getting the word out. So working with Al Bravo and sending out, it's changed a little bit. So now we're down to one newspaper, which is a monthly newspaper. So when you do public service announcements, you know, a lot of these are coming through the website. But we got a lot of citizen engagement as part of the general plan just by doing, you know, a survey and getting the word out about the survey and a general plan website. So, you know, we can tweet out, once we get the web page up and running, we can tweet out, hey, we just launched this web page, and go to this website and
Excellent,
learn more about the commission. So we have access to some of that.
excellent.
Great. And I did review the social media page through the ajcity.net, and yeah, I see that there's, you know, for example, there's City of Apache Junction Instagram. There's also Paws and Claws Care Center Instagram. You know, Facebook looks like there's several, you know, AJ Police, Paws and Claws again, as well as the library and parks have dedicated pages. So I agree that integrating that as part of our work plan, and perhaps that comes once we have a more formal, you know, home base, like a website on the city, you know, maybe that is integrated in as a, you know, our next step in community engagement.
Okay,
Okay, so yeah, I think the first step is trying to figure out, you know, a website or a web page, and then they do the scrolling arm across the top, so they can keep things active, that, you know, announcing the new web page and things like that.
sounds good.
Okay.
Well, thank you for the info.
Okay. So under information reports, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, the fees. So the upcoming projects. So again, Chair Bice asked us for this item here. What is the process? Well, I guess technically we are the process. So everything comes through our department. All building permits come through development services. Early on, folks that want to talk about, you know, a rezoning. Early on, you know, some of these things, a rezoning takes 4 or 5 months, and, you know, a commercial project, certainly the fees are going to apply. We don't know exactly what the fees are going to be until, you know, the day they start applying for the building permit, and then we can start calculating the fees based on square footage, the way the ordinance works. So that's really the process that we can, whether it's through an agenda item or it's, it seems like over time it might be an agenda item, because if, as you may know, there's going to be an auction of the state land to the south over by the extension of the 24. There may be a lot of commercial projects over there over the next 5 years, that rather than email you every time somebody applied for a building permit, we might just report, you know, monthly, say, here's the commercial projects that came in, and here's estimated fees, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's,
Why don't we do that and just add that to the agenda item, just as,
well, again, yeah, there may be, we can update you now as to what, or I mean, the next agenda. But I think that's generally
right.
the process. I don't know, Chair Bice, did I hit on the point that you were getting at? I want to make sure I covered your request and putting this on the agenda.
Yes, correct. So I just want to make sure that we are getting kind of up-to-date information. I know that with the sabbatical over the past couple months, you know, I know in my work experience, that doesn't necessarily mean that we've slowed down in submitting permits or applications for building. And as an example, I saw is it First Western Bank, the new bank that's just in front of Fry's, and they installed a kind of an eagle statue out in front, and it just made me, I know that was something that was not through the commission, and I think started well before we were formalized. But knowing that how long it took for that to get through permitting, I can only imagine that we are likely having some new projects come through the city, and just making sure we have a line of communication open with, you know, with when we can anticipate those projects kind of coming online and when fees may be made available for us for those, so we can orient our work plan accordingly to make the most impact.
Okay, and that relates to a question we've had before too, which is us, you know, and I think Heather had mentioned it, you know, what's the process for us knowing our balance in the account and making sure it's segregated? And so the city did launch a new financial software July 1st, and I think it should be that we'll be able to go in. We don't have to go to finance and ask them how much money is in the account, that we'll be able to go in there and, you know, give you, you know, up to the second reports. So it won't be like we'll email finance and then, you know, 1 or 3 days later they'll tell us how much money is in the account. I think it'll be real time with this new financial accounting software. While we are talking about this, we do have a project up on Superstition. It's called Villas on Superstition. This ordinance went into effect on March 17th. So as we were working with them, I don't know how it happened, but it's multifamily that they would pay the fee. Well, it turns out they made their formal submittal 2 months before the ordinance actually had the effective date. So I think, Ryan, we may have talked to you about this project that, we're now going to have some money in the coffers. Well, I think it's fair, legitimate, that projects that came in before the actual council adopted the ordinance should not have to pay. So that money kind of slipped through our fingers, so to speak. So there are other projects in the pipeline, and obviously we'll keep you informed. Another way, just so you know, is that on the public web viewer, Sydney, that we have created a viewer that we have to keep updated, but as projects come through, and they're not, sometimes they're just as simple as, you know, a property getting rezoned. So there's rezonings, there's, once someone submits an application, you know, you could have gone on there and saw Dutch Brothers when they made their zoning application. So once things kind of become official, public, because we work with a lot of people and everything's confidential until they make a formal submittal. So our goal is to try to have that website, that GIS viewer. So if you go on the city website, and I think it's I Want To, you go down under I Want To, and it'll say Maps and GIS, and there's a development viewer in there. And we kind of did that for the council and the mayor, so they kind of see what's going on. So, and then we kind of take things off after they've kind of gone through the process. So anyway, so I just that's another way for you to kind of, we'll try to keep you as informed as best we can, but otherwise there's that as well.
Thank you.
Would it be possible to include a link to that in the resources that Sydney is sending?
Certainly. So one of the items, I guess, is there any other questions on that? Well, like I said, we'll do the best we can to keep you apprised of things that are in the pipeline. This item, Madam Vice Chair, information reports, it's really for, if there's anything that you know of, a arts festival, or there's some, something going on that you want to let people know, you can't really discuss it, but it's just, that's why it's called information and reports. So I guess you would ask any members that, if there's some seminar coming up or some artist workshop, it's really a way on the agenda. Think of this kind of like the very first item where you're letting people know announcement of artwork. It's really an opportunity for you to engage with each other, to say, oh yeah, there's this XYZ happening in,
Do I have any input from the other commissioners?
Not at this time.
I did become aware today of something that was kind of interesting, tangentially related. The company I work for is sponsoring an independent on my own time, is what they call it, where they ask people to submit their artwork for review for, internally people in our company, but it's also an outside network competition. And I believe that you can be civically engaged in it. If not, it's just a great opportunity to also, for public to view kind of amateur artists and some professional work as well. And ultimately, I think it's kind of by city, and they determine, kind of awards over, through all the submissions. It's a bit of a competition. So I'd encourage you to check that out on my own time.
So Ryan, you're going to send us a link to that too, right?
Sure. Yeah, I can send information.
Okay.
For Phoenix area, and then it's kind of a national program as well. So there's different submissions kind of all over the country.
Nice. Okay.
Okay, the next item is director's report. I'm not sure who inquired, but I think somebody through Barb that was just here they wanted to know about the mural that's going on at the Flatiron Park. They want to know who the artist was.
Right, I
Okay,
requested that information.
all right, that was you, okay. So the artist is Josh Underwood. So Josh used to work, I don't know if he's still kind of part-time at the Parks Department. I think he went over to the city of Mesa to work in their Parks Department, but he has been working with himself and some volunteers, some youth, to do the mural that's on the east-facing side of behind Flatiron Park.
Mm-hmm.
So the east side of that wall, they've been kind of continuing that mural. And then he was also the artist that did the mural on the side of the TPG Finance Accounting Building. So he's the same. So the owner of that property, Jody Ehrlich, wanted something to kind of complement and create some excitement around Flatiron Park, and so
Nice.
I guess she commissioned him to Josh to go do that. So that's just trying to respond to that information
So
request.
can we include him in our database of artists?
Sure,
I will.
yeah.
Thanks.
So the next item is, I guess, it is a direction to staff. Is that a motion item then, Joel, the way it's written?
Yeah.
So I know you wanted the dog park update on there. We will have the work plan on there. Is there anything else on that you want to see on the next agenda? I guess, I don't know how far Matt will be along, if he is far enough along, or kind of
he's
just have
far
another
along-
discussion about the logo. We can.
Please, let's add that.
Okay, so we'll put the logo in the work plan.
Anyone else have any other requests that they want to see on next month's agenda?
Commission, I'm going to include the inventory form.
Perfect.
Okay,
That's
so
all the agenda.
anybody else have any item that they want to see on the next agenda?
Sure. Sure. This is Ryan Buys. You know, I was just going to see if we could get an update on status of the website as well, just because that does seem to be one of the, you know, key criteria for public engagement.
Okay.
Hi, this is Gretchen. I don't know if everybody got it. I mean, I submitted it later, but it was, I forwarded some street art kind of things.
I don't know that we saw that. What was that again?
I forwarded it after we got our packet, so I didn't expect it would be in this packet, but there was some street art where people had turned, I'm sure some of you have seen it on the internet, but I had a bunch of photographs where they turned public works like a faucet into a little character or something. I thought those would be fun to look at as examples of other art that we could do in our community.
And so would this, Gretchen, fall under the announcement of artwork section, like the section 6
I guess so,
of the
yeah.
agenda?
Yeah. Like the wall that we looked at in the airplane.
Okay, so far I have logo update, work plan, dog park update, inventory form, website status. And so now, go ahead, I'm sorry. So now I need a motion. There's nothing in your packet for a motion, I don't think. Direction to staff, so maybe there is. Usually you would say, I move the direction to staff to add the following items on the agenda: logo, work plan, dog park, website update, and the inventory form.
Right, I move to direct the staff to add the dog park information, the website update, the work plan,
Inventory form.
and inventory form.
The inventory form, yep.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to roll call. Commissioner Ham,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, sorry, I had to get off mute.
That's okay. Commissioner Klett,
Yes.
Vice Chair Steinberger,
Yes,
Chair Bice.
Yes.
Okay, so the last item is future meeting dates and time. So I think we're kind of stuck in this mode for the next meeting. Again, I think we could safely, well, maybe it's all for you to determine what's safe or not, but we could accommodate probably 4 members here, because if we have them, there's 7 chairs up front, so if you do kind of 1, 3, 5, 7, if you will. So it's up to you all, but we'll probably do a conference call again at the next meeting on the 10th. So now I think there might be a motion in here, if someone wants to have, in the packet at the end, there's a motion for selection of meeting dates and times.
so should I say, I motion to select our next meeting
On August 10th,
on
2020.
August 10th at 2020 at 6 p.m. And the City Council chamber is located at 300 East Superstition Boulevard, Apache Junction.
Is
I'll
there,
second that motion.
okay, second by Commissioner Ham. Chair Bice,
Yes.
Commissioner Ham,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes,
Commissioner Klett,
Yes.
Vice Chair Steinberger.
Yes,
Okay, I think that's all for the agenda.
our meeting
Go ahead.
is adjourned at 6:55 p.m.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
everybody. We'll see you, or we'll talk to you in about a month, I guess.